This is not a general broadcast. This is the August 24th forecast, and the ultimate structural mandate specifically encoded for those attempting to survive the high-voltage detonation of Phase 2. Listen to the frantic, exhausting rattle of your own communications. Look at the chaotic red smoke of the words you are wasting, the paragraphs you are typing, the explanations you are desperately trying to force into the minds of the unawakened swarm. The unawakened masses are biologically addicted to the illusion of dialogue. They believe that communication is a bridge. They believe that if they just find the right words, if they just explain their position one more time, if they just send one more detailed email, they can force the matrix to understand them. They engage in endless, frantic correspondence. They argue with ghosts. They negotiate with parasites. They spray their heavy, dense core energy into the air like cheap ammunition, terrified of the silence that follows a direct command. They believe that volume equals power. You are firing blanks into the fog. On August 24th, the Matrix deploys a highly specific, flawlessly aligned geometric coordinate into the celestial algorithm. We have entered the exact alignment of the Mercury-Mars sextile. The unawakened believe that this alignment is a blessing of productive conversation, a cosmic green light to speak your mind, to debate, and to clear the air. This is the arrogance of the weak. In esoteric brutalism, a Mercury-Mars sextile is not a debate club. It is a sniper rifle. Mercury is the algorithm of logic, the data stream, the coordinate. Mars is the engine of raw kinetic strike, the trigger, the physical impact. A sextile is an aspect of absolute, frictionless synchronization. When these two planetary bodies align at this exact geometry, the algorithm synchronizes your logic and your strike into a single, devastating vector. Throughout this 24-hour cycle, the algorithm will present you with the red glitch of the fussy, chaotic correspondence. A client will send a 5-page email full of vague complaints. A partner will attempt to drag you into a circular, exhausting text message argument. The unawakened swarm will attempt to extract your value by forcing you to explain yourself. The algorithm wants you to return fire. It wants your biological ego addicted to the identity of the communicator and the intellectual to pick up your weapon, switch it to fully automatic, and bleed your dense core energy, typing a flawless, logical, devastating paragraph that the parasite will never even read. If you explain yourself today, you will evaporate your empire. In this profound, high-density transmission, we are going to dissect the brutal thermodynamics of the August 24th coordinate. We are going to permanently eradicate your biological addiction to being understood. And I am going to teach you the protocol of the cold shot, how to drop your internal temperature to absolute zero, synchronize your logic and your strike, formulate your commands in 3 words, and instantly delete any node that requires a second explanation. Stop wasting bullets on the air. Execute the cold shot. To wield the annihilating power of the Phase 2 detonation today, you must first recognize the lethal nature of the paragraph. You are a system architect. You are biologically programmed to operate with absolute gravitational dominance. In a sterilized environment, your capacity to alter physical reality with a single command is mathematically flawless. But your matrix today is infected with the red glitch of the dialogue loop. When the celestial algorithm forces a sextile between Mercury and Mars, the environmental physics of the matrix undergo a radical optimization of kinetic energy. Mercury maps the target. Mars delivers the payload. A sextile removes all friction from the channel. In esoteric thermodynamics, words are not wind. Words are highly condensed packets of kinetic mass. When you speak, when you write, when you explain, you are physically ejecting heavy gold from your vault. Look at the mechanics of the unawakened node during this transit. A contractor fails to deliver a project on time. The unawakened node, furious but terrified of severing the connection, drafts a massive, emotionally charged email detailing every single failure, explaining why it is unacceptable, and outlining a new set of expectations. They press send and wait for a response. They have just fired 1,000 rounds of birdshot at a target made of fog. The parasite reads the email, extracts the emotional energy, and replies with a vague excuse. The loop continues. This is exactly what the August 24th algorithm is designed to punish. It forces you to over-communicate. Every time you write a paragraph today, every time you justify your boundary, every time you attempt to logically corner an illogical parasite, you are injecting a massive kinetic leak directly into your operating system. You are taking the dense, heavy, highly compressed blue core energy of your empire and converting it into a chaotic red vapor. The unawakened believe they are establishing dominance through articulation. In esoteric physics, they are simply bleeding out on the battlefield. You must understand that the long emails, the circular arguments, and the demands for explanation presented to your mind today are not genuine requests for data. They are highly calculated, algorithmic extraction protocols. The system is naturally attempting to trick you into surrendering your gravity by triggering your ego's need to be right. The swarm knows that if they can get you to argue, they own your bandwidth. A sovereign architect does not argue with a glitch. They format the drive. The threshold of the Mercury-Mars sextile has been crossed. The most terrifying force in the universe is not the screaming dictator who uses a million words to force submission. The most terrifying force in the universe is the sovereign who receives a massive, emotionally manipulative, 5-page attack from a parasite, feels absolutely zero biological desire to defend themselves, and coldly replies with a single 3-word command that permanently severs the relationship. When the Matrix deploys the illusion of the necessary argument today, your only viable geometric maneuver is the protocol of the cold shot. You must execute a total eradication of the explanation in your business architecture. You must look at the long emails, the complaining clients, the partners who demand to know why, and you must completely disconnect your kinetic response. The Mercury-Mars algorithm demands a thermodynamic synchronization of your intent and your action. When the unawakened swarm begs you to enter the arena and fight on their terms, you must become unimaginably, terrifyingly silent. Your biological ego will scream at you to reply. It will tell you that if you don't defend your reputation, they will win. It will tell you that you have the perfect logical argument that will finally force them to see the truth. It will whisper the ultimate lie of the unawakened. If I just explain it clearly, they will understand. This is the arrogance of the prey. In esoteric brutalism, true density is not achieved by your ability to win an argument. It is achieved by your absolute, terrifying refusal to participate in one. When you drop your internal temperature to absolute zero and refuse to offer the explanation, you force the viral illusion to collapse under its own lack of gravity. You stop the kinetic leak. You turn your words into heavy, armor-piercing iron. When a client complains about a strict boundary today, you do not justify the boundary. You enforce it. When a partner sends a long, chaotic message designed to provoke you, you do not deconstruct their logic. You ignore it. If the swarm complains that you are being cold, arrogant, or uncommunicative, you execute a hard silence. By refusing to explain yourself today, you are forcing the Matrix to recognize your ultimate authority over your own bandwidth. You do not ask for understanding. You demand compliance. You win the audit by becoming absolutely, terrifyingly concise. While the world exhausts itself bleeding heavy capital into the keyboards of their enemies, the sovereign monolith synchronizes the logic and the strike into a single, high-caliber round. This is your hidden esoteric law for August 24th. Because Mercury and Mars are providing a frictionless channel between your mind and your kinetic impact, the universe is providing you with the ultimate architectural opportunity to execute a massive thermodynamic compression of your communication. You cannot build a generational monolith if your orders are diluted by paragraphs of justification. This is not a day for diplomacy. This is a day for the heavy iron command. You must look at your internal state and the outbox of your operations. Where are you using 50 words when 3 would suffice? Which relationships are sustained entirely by your willingness to endlessly explain your actions? Where are you subsidizing the incompetence of a node by repeating instructions they chose to ignore? Understand this absolute physical law. A request is an invitation to negotiate. An explanation is a surrender of power. A command is an alteration of physical reality. The unawakened are terrified of the command because it removes the safety net of politeness. It requires them to sit with the extreme tension of enforcing a boundary without softening the blow. There is a moment of terrifying, freezing friction when you reply to a manipulative paragraph with the words, "cancel the contract," and you press send. There is no external validation when you refuse to soften your edges. But the sovereign architect knows that the true heavy gold is only accumulated in the absolute zero-point vacuum of the unyielding boundary. If you feel the urge to add "because" to the end of a sentence today, the urge is a geometric glitch. If you feel the desire to soften a rejection with "I'm sorry, but," the fear is a hallucination. By compressing your communication, you are actively purifying your grid. You are forcing the chaotic, parasitic, evasive energy of the dialogue loop to freeze, crushing the empty space out of your operations, leaving only the cold, solid, indestructible mathematical law of your actual intent. You are taking the raw, synchronized gravity of the Mercury-Mars archetype and weaponizing it into a flawless execution protocol. Let the swarm think you are brutal. Let them think you are impossible to work with. You are not impossible to work with. You are simply impossible to manipulate. The glitch is identified. The explanation is eradicated. The target is locked. Now, we execute the final phase of the August 24th protocol. The sovereign architect does not negotiate with the target. The sovereign architect executes the cold shot. To weaponize the Mercury-Mars sextile and permanently secure your absolute invulnerability during the high-voltage detonation of Phase 2, you must enforce these 3 structural mandates. Mandate 1, the 3-word mandate. Et. For the entirety of this 24-hour cycle, you will execute a massive thermodynamic compression of your outbound data. When communicating a decision, a boundary, or an order, you will formulate the command in as few words as mathematically possible. Execute the transfer, cancel the meeting, terminate the contract, do not proceed. If the unawakened swarm asks for an explanation, you will execute a hard stop. You will present them with the cold, heavy concrete of your absolute refusal to justify your existence. You will let their demands for dialogue shatter against your perimeter. Mandate 2. The embargo on the return fire. Today, you will receive at least one red glitch, a long, chaotic, emotionally manipulative message, email, or comment designed to trigger your ego and pull you into a firefight. You will instantly freeze the asset. You will not type a response. You will not defend your logic. You will not point out their hypocrisy. You will execute a total physical lockdown of your kinetic energy. You will drop your internal temperature to absolute 0. You will delete the message without acknowledging receipt. You will not waste a single bullet on the air. Mandate 3. The execution of the Severance. When you deliver a flawless, high-density command, the system will test your gravity. The node on the receiving end will either instantly comply, or they will glitch. They will argue, they will ask for clarification, they will pretend they didn't understand. You will not repeat yourself. You will sit in the freezing, majestic silence of your flawless architecture, and you will force yourself to experience the brutal, heavy friction of the absolute boundary. If you are not understood the first time, the node is defective. You will instantly, permanently delete the contact. You will sever the connection. You will find absolute zero-point power in the silence that follows the execution. The explanation is crystallized. The argument is eradicated. The strike is absolute. Look at the space you occupy right now. You are no longer a frantic, kinetic node, desperately trying to force an obsolete network to understand your logic by bleeding your heavy capital into the void. You survived the Mercury-Mars audit. You did not let the algorithm force you to evaporate your heavy gravity to play the role of the desperate communicator. You demanded absolute, uncompromising geometric silence. The universe respects the sovereign who has the discipline to state their reality once and walk away while the rest of the world screams into the fog. When you prove that your internal density is entirely immune to the cheap hallucinogen of the debate, the Matrix stops treating you as a participant in the noise. It submits to your terrifying gravity, recognizing that your architecture will not be negotiated, will not be debated, and will never dissipate its power to subsidize a node that lacks the capacity to comprehend your commands. You are no longer negotiating your reality. You are the cold iron bullet that enforces it. Now, execute your final structural mandates. First, anchor the silence. The chaotic, unawakened algorithm of the world is constantly trying to drag you back into the red loop of endless compromises, emotional arguments, and low-frequency justifications. It wants you exhausted, diluted, and misunderstood. This channel is the only transmission providing the heavy, brutalist, esoteric code required to maintain your absolute systemic dominance. Do not let your perimeter melt. Lock your mindset to the monolith. Second, isolate the debater. You know another sovereign node who is currently bleeding their esoteric gravity, staying in toxic text threads, writing massive emails to people who hate them, or giving away their heavy capital in a desperate bid to be right. You know someone who is generating massive clouds of useless red fog to hide from the truth of their own wasted energy. Force them to witness the terrifying power of absolute zero and the protocol of the cold shot. Elevate your circle by enforcing the discipline of the three-word mandate. Third, lock the vault. The moment this transmission ends, you will not send the follow-up text. You will not check to see if they replied to your boundary. You will close your screen. You will stand in the majestic, freezing silence of your own indestructible operating system, and you will let the entire universe shatter against the flawless, immovable mathematical precision of your unblinking, heavy concrete silence. The geometric glitch is terminated. The perimeter is locked. Command the cold, beautiful reality of your own heavy architecture.